This is 5 on 20 News with Frank Powers
and Joel Foster, coming to you live from our studio in downtown Tucson. It's Friday, August 11th.
It's Friday.
It is Friday.
It's Casual Friday,
Casual Friday.
That's right.
Get out of here.
Whoop. Done.
Let's talk local headlines, shall we?
Let's. So, a majority of Arizona Native Americans now speak only English at home, according to the new numbers by the U.S. Census Bureau. American Community Survey data covering 2011 to 2015 shows that 53% of people who identified as American Indian in the state say that they speak only English. This compares to 49% in the previous survey. The decrease comes as tribes are making an effort to keep their culture and languages alive through immersion schools and tribal programs. But even those involved in the program say the results are unsurprising due to the government attempts to rid tribes of their native culture and language. Tommy Lewis, superintendent of the Navajo schools, says that if something doesn't change, then the Navajo will likely lose their language in as soon as 25 years. Lewis says that this trend goes back many years, where the federal government was intent to colonize the tribes so they would become a part of the melting pot. He says they've accomplished this through funding, policy, and programs to eradicate tribal culture. Anthony Gray, a coordinator for the Gia River Indian community, says that the problem can be chalked up to the so-called boarding school effect. This is in reference to the government-run boarding schools set up in the 19th century, which were intended to assimilate natives to the mainstream American culture. Several of these schools were located in Arizona, along with many in western states. However, Gray says that the purpose of the groups like this is to create a resurgence of tribal language and culture so that tribal members can gain a sense of identity. They have it promptly stripped away, and then they're going to take that identity and they're going to have it promptly stripped away by the white man. White devil, white devil.
After a series of criticisms and court orders, Tucson Unified School District finally released the names of its finalists to be the next superintendent. The names included ex-principal Stephen Trejo, elementary director Maria Marin, interim superintendent Gabriel Trujillo, and outsider Donna Hargens. Hargens resigned last month from her position as superintendent of Louisville, Kentucky, which is being audited by the state over mismanagement allegations. While the names were released, it came after much teeth pulling by the press. TUSD refused to release the list before a school board meeting on Tuesday night, even after being presented with request forms by the Tucson Sentinel. While most of the names are familiar to the districts, Kentucky's Hargens appears to have the most baggage. She was forced out of her Louisville position with a buyout for more than $200,000. The current acting superintendent in Louisville said that the, quote, culture and morale in our schools is at the lowest level it's ever been. Kentucky Governor Matt Bevin also called the school district a, quote, unmitigated disaster. Fatality. So it sounds like Donna Hargens should be a shoo-in to run the Tucson school systems.
That's all it takes, right? Heck yeah.
Great.
So Arizona Senator Jeff Frosted Flakes was not doing so great when he was placed on CNN's list of the 10 Senate seats most likely to switch parties in 2018.
Bazinga.
Flake faces a tough primary in 2018, not only from Democrats, but also from his own party. Arizona State Treasurer Jeff DeWitt and former Republican Chairman Robert Graham are considered a run against Flake, and they might have a little help from the small-handed orange man. You've heard of him. That's right, Donald Trump. Trump himself has pledged $10 million of his own money to unseat Flake and has been in regular contact with both DeWitt and Graham. This is likely due to Flake's past criticisms of Trump while on the campaign trail. He also criticized Trump's immigration policy, saying that it isn't the right direction for the economy. However, Flake's anti-Trump attitude might gain him surprising support from the state's Democrats and moderate Republicans. But Flake's voting record might get in his own way, as he has agreed to vote along with Republicans to advance the Senate's health care plan to replace the Affordable Care Act. The bill ended up dying a slow and painful death when fellow Arizona Senator John McCain delivered the deciding no vote, siding with Democrats and making Flake look that much more silly. Flake isn't the only Republican senator in trouble of getting voted out. He joins a list that includes Nevada Republican Dean Heller, Montana Democrat John Tester, West Virginia Democrat Joe Manchin, and Florida Democrat Bill Nelson. If CNN is correct, then it looks like Democrats have an even rougher road ahead. They should have rode Bernie's coattails when they had the chance, shouldn't they?
Bazinga.
What? Police in southern Arizona are warning about an increase of gas skimmers found at gas stations. These gas skimmers are used to scan credit cards used at gas pumps, which are then stolen and used illegally. A series of skimmers were found in the Phoenix area this week, with one is found as close as Picacho Peak back in February. Last skimmer found in the Tucson area was in February, but police are warning to take precautions when filling up. They say that one of the best ways to protect yourself is to regularly check your bank account and credit card statements, keeping an eye out for any suspicious charges.
Oh, yes.
Another way to avoid being skimmed is to check the card reader before you use the pump.
Oh,
They advise to check to see if the reader has been tampered with or if anyone has broken the seals.
Oh, yes.
In my opinion, the best way to avoid skimming is to siphon gas rather than pay for it.
Bazinga.
Sure, the hallucinations and brain damage are rough, but nothing compares to a $20 unauthorized charge on your Visa.
I hate hallucinations. It's true. I really agree with you. So now in national and international news. Alaskan towns are on the risk of rising sea at the same time that the Trump administration is pulling funds from programs that would prevent or even acknowledge climate change. The Trump administration has moved to dismantle climate change programs such as the Denali Commission, an Anchorage-based agency that is crafting a plan to safeguard the Alaskan communities most at risk from rising seas, storms, and the melting of sea ice. Joel Clement, a former Interior Department official who worked with Alaskan communities, says that he was moved to a completely unrelated position because of the administration's position on climate change. Clement claims that he was in the middle of working on a resolution plan, but that his group work has now come to a stop. According to the Army Corps of Engineers, 31 Alaskan communities faced imminent threats from coastline erosion, flooding, and other results of rising temperatures. Victoria Herman, president of the Arctic Institute, says that there's no longer a Washington liaison on the issue of climate change. The LEO network has already documented a number of recent unusual events linked to climate change, including sightings of baby squids as far as outside their normal range, altered salmon patterns as well, and a nearby lake that is on the brink of overflowing due to erosion. The Trump administration said that if environmental ruin comes to Alaska, then they'll give the state to Russia as a gift.
Got the best plans. Speaking of Russia, a Russian cyber attack targeted a North Carolina polling place on Election Day, which caused a number of disruptions, but was never reported by the state. According to poll workers at the site, some voters were told that they had already voted even though they hadn't. Investigators later discovered that the company who provided the electronic voting systems was a target of the Russian cyber attack. There is no evidence that the incident was linked with a wider investigation into Russian election interference, but it did expose dangerous vulnerabilities to secure U.S. elections. Allison Riggs was manning the phones on Election Day for the nonpartisan group that monitored the polls for irregularities. She says that complaints came pouring in on Election Day, most with similar complaints. Riggs ended up contacting election officials to let them know, which led to the investigation. But she had trouble getting any response from the Department of Homeland Security, who said that they could do little to help unless the state requested help, which they never did. The state assured federal officials that they had everything under control. This decision was likely prompted by the state's anti-federalist attitude and wanting little government interference into their election systems. After Riggs exposed the number of complaints she was receiving, North Carolina's Durham County decided to switch to paper ballots in the targeted precincts. But the county thought it would be better to have uniformity among its 57 precincts and switch them all to paper. This caused up to an hour-and-a-half wait for some precincts, as polling places had to wait for new supplies. Riggs said that many polling places lacked appropriate supplies, such as scissors and glue sticks. Durham County officials suggested holding the next election in a kindergarten classroom so that the supplies would no longer be a problem. It'd be fun, too.
I recommend those safety scissors. Don't play with swords, kids. It's tough. Enforcement of environmental laws have dropped dramatically compared with past administrations, according to a recent report by the Environmental Integrity Project. The study found that 12 million of civil penalties have been collected from violators in 26 cases from January until late July. This is significantly less than the number of cases prosecuted by the Obama, Bush, and Clinton administrations. Under Obama, the Justice Department prosecuted 34 cases and collected 36 million in the same time period, while the Bush administration prosecuted 31 cases and brought in 30 million in penalties. They both pale in comparison to Clinton, whose Justice Department prosecuted 45 cases and collected penalties totaling $25 million. So far, penalties collected under Trump's EPA are 60% lower than the average of the three previous administrations. The report also looked at the number of preventable deaths that were avoided through environmental enforcement, records which the EPA keeps. They found that the Bush administration prevented at least 549 deaths in the first 6 months, while the Obama administration avoided 184 premature deaths. Unsurprisingly, the number is much lower under Trump, with only 7 premature deaths avoided. But in Trump's defense, these 7 were the best lives. Eric Schaefer, one of the authors of the report, criticized Trump's call for a law and order, pointing out that this apparently doesn't include illegal polluters. Environmental advocates have suggested taking away polluter citizenship, so maybe then the Trump administration would pay attention to their crimes.
It's a solid plan.
Yeah.
Yeah. Animals such as dogs and pigs get bored just like humans, according to a study by the Royal Veterinarian College of the University of London. Charlotte Burns, one of the authors of the report, states that boredom is felt by many animals who are left alone for long periods. She says that chronic boredom is distressing and damaging in humans, yet has barely been studied in animals. Burns got the idea by studying lab rats at the same time that she had pet rats. She noticed a huge contrast in the two groups' behavior, as her pets had more stimulation than the lab rats, who were stuck in a cage. She says that boredom occurs when arousal inputs are low, but arousal motivation is high. Bored animals seek out ways to become less bored, such as roughhousing with another animal or human. Burns said that if an animal is chronically bored, then they can fall into depression, much like humans. But there might be an upside to boredom, according to the study. Burns says that boredom may motivate young animals to seek out stimulation that helps them learn about their world, similar to how teenagers misbehave in class to test boundaries. She also says that boredom may spark creativity and innovation in animals as they seek to alleviate their boredom. So next time you see your puppy looking at the clock and sighing, throw him a bone, will ya?
I'll tell you, I get bored sometimes. Let me tell you something about that. That's right. This was 5 on 20 News. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe all of our YouTube and Facebook accounts for all the latest in Creative Tucson content. Feel free to bother us over info@creativetucson.org. And check me out this weekend at the Return of the Mermaids this Saturday. Lots of fun events going on. But first, let's take a look back at the week, because we're going to look back at a week in mediocrity. Joel, what are you talking about this week?
This week, it's all about McMaster.
I'm good at scratching, though, kids. Don't scratch your eyes when you have a hook. I'll tell you, it doesn't work for you. So it's all about scratching and DJs and all that stuff?
All that.
Oh, I love when you keep it local, brother. Thank you so much. All right, this was 5 on 20 News. Stay creative, Tucson.